Let me come to the fifth panelist, and I'd say it wasn't an accident to choose someone from an agency that is concerned with reorientating people and pushing for the right values among the citizens. And Anthony Rumosele is standing in for the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. And so to him, it's pretty straightforward. And that is the effects of incivility on the reputation of Africans. Of course, we all know how we are generally regarded globally.
Oh, thank you very much. At National Orientation Agency, we have what we call the National Value Charter, and which makes for 7 duties of citizens to government and government to citizen. And part of that is enshrined on it. Duty of citizen is respect towards elders and respect to self. And standing on that, Your Excellency, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, our keynote speaker for today, Ambassador Usman Sarki. Thank you very much for the wonderful expository lecture you gave us this morning. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the convener, thank you very much. And a wonderful panelist, opportune and privileged to sit to discuss this afternoon with. On behalf of myself and the Deputy Director, the Ethics and Value National Orientation Agency, Mrs. Ebele Okonkwo, and my colleagues here with me, I bring you greetings from the Director General, National Orientation Agency. So talking about this incivility that is seen among youth in Nigeria, one of the reasons that can cause lack of development in the society, it is not far-fetched to understand that these issues of not being civil have grave effects on our national reputation and also international reputation. If you look at the world today, Nigerians, everybody will agree that we are wonderful people and we are experts, and they will say the most intelligent in the world. But oftentimes, when you discuss with people across board, world over, you tend to understand that this praise, you don't know if it's to be excited about it or not, because it is actually tilted towards being great in a negative light. And these are not the things that we are known for. I remember growing up in the village, especially with my grandparents also. There's this duty of care I was made to understand when it comes to child operant learning and upbringing, that you should be able to avoid this or imbibe this to have to represent your family in this community and in the society. So even as we grow up as youths, speaking to youth also and adolescent and young persons present here, we begin to understand that these values are continuously eroding our society today. Why is it so? Some people will say technology, advent of a lot of things that are taking the minds of youth away from what they ought to be doing. But we continue to preach, especially as an agency that talks about public education, community engagement, to bring to light what we should imbibe as citizens to remain real Nigerians, to bring back what we are known for. And I believe as Nigerians, when we talk about Nigerians, what should come to mind should not be people that are known for internet fraud or criminality. So incivility are the result of all these issues that we have in the society, so mentioned. So why do we talk about this issue today? Is because it is very important we maintain etiquette and maintain basic ethics and hold dear to our national value and what binds us together, which as Nigeria, let me not even go to Africa, we are known for. So there are a lot of borrowed culture when it comes to incivility. Africans are actually known to be very respectful. Nigerians are known to respect their elders, to fear their senior actually. But we are beginning to graduate to a lot of xenocentrism, believing others people's culture, giving it precedence over us. And this is issues that we continue to talk about even as an agency, and this is what we try to preach to the community, even using our various community mobilizers and using the robust resources and manpower we have at the agency to partner with agencies like Etiquette Africa to take this message in terms of ethics and value to reach how to reach areas and general populations in Nigeria to ensure that every trait that breeds incivility will be thing of the past in Nigeria. We'll begin to embrace things like honesty, integrity, respect, things that makes for civility, respect for others, duty of care for yourself and the nearest person in your community. So that we will begin to see a country that we so desire and want to be. Maybe I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Let me return to you, Dr. Ezekwesili. I know you had pressed for time and you probably would be leaving us after your next comment. So I'd like you, in your closing comments, to also take this into cognizance. Many years ago, not many families had access to formal education, but that didn't mean that people were not trained to be civil. Fast forward to now, formal education, and we have seen a high level of incivility, which you would attribute to so many other factors. So I'm thinking here, is there a contradiction? Those who didn't have formal education had civility imbibed. Those who have a high grade of formal education are losing out on that. What are we missing here? I'd like you to also factor that in your closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and it's been a delight listening to my co-panelists. I do want to state that the paper that was delivered by Ambassador Seriki is a good think piece for a foundational understanding of the definitional issues. Because if you get the definitional issues around civility, then it makes it a lot easier for you to connect it to so many other things, especially to connect it to why individuals can do well and why nations can do well, while other individuals don't do well and other nations don't do well. It's important that we should understand this causation and correlation between civility and every other thing that we would like to see in our individual lives and in our society, and of course our continent. To that specific question of how was it that informal education enabled us to pass on the tradition of civility, whereas formal education appears to have rolled all of that back. I would say that it is not just the disconnect between informal education and formal education, it's also the drivers of what social cohesion and community used to be in our society. You would see clearly, based on data, that the urbanization process of our continent, without any expansion in economic opportunities, and therefore a shrinking base of investment in the new ways of continuing to push learnings of different types, affected us greatly. Now, in the formal system of education, there was not any kind of thing built into it to support the idea that because children go to school, the role of the parent becomes unimportant. It actually builds on the concept of the basic socialization process of a child being the times that they spend at home. They spend more time at home than they spend with the teachers. So it looks at that fundamental as really important. And so the idea of parenting that our dear Eugenia Abu spoke so eloquently about is one that we must bring back to a responsibility and a duty. And that perspective means that how do we prepare people for parenthood? In many societies, it is some of it is formal education, but a whole lot of it is coming from the religious organizations. It's coming from non-state actors that run the kind of thing that Etienne Etienne, I finally got it very correctly, is gathered us to talk about this whole idea that community exists with certain fundamental core values that are not negotiable. I, for example, was raised by a dad who often said to us, we must not negotiate our values. Don't negotiate it. It doesn't matter what anybody puts on the table. It is not good enough to exchange your values for it. Many homes do not reflect this non-negotiability of values. Today, people are willing to transact. Whatever it is, oh yes, let's just go and do it. But if parents understand the concept, when the Bible actually puts it, and perhaps there is something in the Quran that talks about it also, but it says that when you raise a child in the way that they should grow, that when they grow, they will not depart from it. One of the key things that my dad taught us is that character is an everlasting currency. He says other currencies will go out of fashion. But you see, character, that's a currency you can spend and spend and spend. And I have seen it. The truth is that nobody is going to judge you by the Nigerian standard, children, because it's for you I came. Essentially, I came for you. Nobody is going to judge you on the basis of the Nigerian standard. They are going to judge you on the basis of global standard. And in global standard, there are just certain attributes that are non-negotiable. So please understand that your formal education, whereas people like me, as Minister of Education, looked at our curriculum and saw the gaps clearly, especially in the area of value-based learning. And we decided that we were going to just populate our training of the children so that they would have very strong fundamental values. But, that curriculum was thrown off the window by the next time that another person was a minister of education. That you can't make progress on the basis of political fluidities affecting the things that are important for our generations. So clearly, we can't say, because informal education at the time, we had mostly informal education. People were more respectful, people were more civil. Therefore, let's go back to informal. Informal education is not sufficient as a basis for engaging the world today. But what societies have known how to do is to use their curriculum as a very strong definition of what minimum people must know. And by the way, when they design the curriculum, they design it on the basis of the fact that those who are leading are setting the tone. You can't go and design a curriculum, and yet the president of the country is not exemplifying the values that you put in the curriculum. The minister doesn't exemplify the values. The head teacher doesn't exemplify it. And then you come into the classroom and you say, children, hello. Today we're speaking about children are the most intelligent people on earth. They would roll their eyes and simply say, leave them, let them be yapping. And that is a disconnect. So we don't want the disconnect. Therefore, we must set the tone. Because at the end of this conference, at the end of this convening, we should rightly ask ourselves, so what are the critical first set of steps that we do need to take? Instead of just badging at the children and saying you must have values, perhaps the easiest first step is to say, what is it about our society today that makes it difficult for people to be civil? The poor governance of our society makes it difficult for a lot of people to be civil. The poor governance, and that poor governance is being offered by the elders, not the children. Beating the children on their head and saying you don't have respect is a complete waste of time, and it's unfair, frankly speaking. We do need to ask for accountability of the elders for the behavior pattern that we see today. The truth is that demanding accountability is not an insult. We have now been taught by the intolerance of those that govern that when people are in a quest to know how they are being governed, why things are being done in certain ways, you now make a false equivalency of calling that disrespect. And the truth is that this generation of children, they don't send anybody. If you want respect, you should give them respectful governance. Respectful governance is to make judicious use of the resources of the society so that they can have the kind of quality education that, whether formal or informal, incorporates into it an agenda for being a proper human being. A proper human being, like Dr. Komolafe was saying, starts with just appreciating that there are just certain things you cannot do. My father used to call it that something is infradig. Infradignato. You dare not be found doing this. That starts with the individual. And so it starts with the individual, then it goes into the way that they interact in order to foster collaboration. The truth is that societies where collaboration and cooperation happen are at the higher level of the economic league table. Now, if we create chaotic, uncivil environments, it makes it difficult for collaboration and partnership to happen. We must see this as the most important conversation, that we should gather our elders, and I love what you said about intergenerational dialogues. We need to get the elders, we need to get the young ones. The elders need to say, I am sorry to the younger ones. We messed up big time. That's why the society is the way it is. We're sorry for it. We could have done better. We haven't done as well. We're sorry for it. Forgive us. But we don't want you to repeat the same pattern. It is called humility. Humility is part of civility. Just being able to accepting that we could have done things better, but we haven't done them, and there is a gap. But we're going to say to them, you're not competing against us. We are on our way out. You're going to be competing against the rest of the world. Therefore, we need you to just have these skills, because these tools will take you further than you could ever have imagined. Those kinds of sessions that we have today, in fact, I would have loved to have some of those children as our own co-panelists. They would have been better panelists for me than all of you. Because they would throw things at us, and then we would show them how we can take it. Being able to take it. And sometimes just taking it, knowing where the other person is coming from in what they are saying to you, is also part of bringing us to a place of civility. I have to apologize. I gave this particular program 1 hour, but you can see that I have stayed beyond 2 hours, as a matter of fact. Now I must really have to leave. Otherwise, I would be uncivil to the other meeting that I must be at. So I thank you very much, and God bless you. I look forward to continuing to engage with our dear young daughter, and to see how we can support the quest that you're on. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obieze Kwesili. We thank you. Thank you so very much, and let's appreciate her and, as she takes her leave, and thank you for your input. And
sorry, Cyril. I wanted to say there will be a few comments that I would make when Dr. Obieze Kwesili has left the room, and we will send those messages to her.
Right.
So she knows that I'm going to respond to some of the things she said.
Right, fantastic. We'll do that. And so, Thank you so very much. We just have a few more minutes to go for this session. And so what we'll be doing right now is taking your closing comments, which I should expect to be as brief as possible. Let's start that process with Dr. James Komolafe, and you have taken us through what should be the correlation between the physical and the mental health as we strive towards achieving civility. And so I'd just like you to conclude on that in the next few minutes.
Thank you so very much. I'd like to conclude on this note, given the foregoing that this conference should end with a conclusion and a resume to send to the critical leadership and the current leadership as I advocate for a national policy framework of behavioral alignment for national development, so that we can go back to the crucibles to ensure that the upcoming generation of leadership, not essentially by party politics, but by their home upbringing, imbibe a culture of civility down to the grassroots. And how do I mean? We are going to advocate for a tripod hub of operation. And what is this tripod? It's a triangle where you have at top of the triangle character. Can we say character? Thank you, students. At least you are following me. So I have the popular majority in this election. So what is atop the triangle? Character. We must mainstream character as a major bulwark to civility in Africa, beginning from Nigeria as a template. Then, as we cascade it down as optimists who believe in positivism, we should see the base of the triangle to the right as competence. What is in the base to the right? Competence. Character alone will not do the job. We must go ahead to negotiate for competency. What do I know? What have I learned? And as we
has that been lost as we're growing up? So I'd like you to add that to the comments you'd make as you close, and the ones you'd respond to by the former minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Parenting is a critical factor of social development. While I had already said that family is the smallest unit in a society that makes or breaks that society, and it's so important, I'd like to welcome and commend, of course, the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, who took time off to visit the American-led school in Abuja, where a child was bullied. She left her job and believed that that was an extension of her job, and showed up in that school. And I think it's a sign of leadership that you should understand that when it comes to children, when it comes to women, when it comes to family, the Ministry of Women Affairs is really in a position to make some changes. And I'd like to thank you so very much for that action that you took that warmed our hearts. If we could, all of us will storm the school, but you went on behalf of all of us. I'd also like to welcome Kairos Hoff, one of my favorite persons in terms of building in Abuja. We thank you for making the time to show up. Now, having said so, as a young lady in 1979, when I first entered ABU Zaria, 1977, 78, 79 for the A-levels, and then 1979 to 81 for the degree. We lived in Zaria, but I was in Queen of Apostles College, Queen Amina College in Kaduna between 72 and 76. And therefore, our school was also near where my parents lived. Now, what it meant is that while I was in Zaria, there were parties in Kaduna. My greatest fear was that my father will turn up in Zaria and I will not be in school. So I never went. I don't know how to explain it any better. That the shadow of your parents, the foreshadow of your parents, and the words they put in your ears remain. Today, social media says, don't mind them. And that's a challenge. While we are able to hold our parents accountable today, in the past, I couldn't interrupt my father when he was speaking. Neither could I interrupt my mother. It didn't mean that I didn't have a different view. It meant that I waited for them to finish and therefore interjected them with some measure of respect to say what I wanted to say. But today, children interrupt you. Then they challenge you. Then they dare you to do whatever you like, because social media has told them that their parents are irrelevant. In Nigeria, parents are relevant. In Africa, parents are relevant. Maybe not in the UK, maybe not in the US. But if you ground your child well in Nigeria, and she goes to school in the UK, she will behave like Cyril. Every time, it will be as if you are standing behind them, telling them you can't do that. Parenting is critical where we have an intellectual society today, a digital society, where today I can play with my children and they can speak to me in a manner that suggests that I'm their friend. That's what has changed a little bit. But if you're a thief in 1923, being a thief is the same thing in 2024. If you are disrespectful in 1923, it's the same thing. If you are kind in 1923, what has changed? They said they are different. Technology only has changed, but the values have remained the same. If you are kind, if you are passionate, if you are a fool, it's the same thing in 1923 as it is today in 2024. Now, I make this comment because I think we miss it when we believe that, oh, let's give them a chance. I've mentored over 500 children informally over the last 4 or so years. They are not my children, but I will say sit properly. I would say don't go out naked, because let's be fair, your nakedness can only take you to the bed. So if you begin to do cleavage, nobody can see your brain. They can only see your breast. Pardon my French. That's the way it is. But because social media tells them you have to show skin, our young ladies think that the best way to go to an important meeting is to be dressed in a very stupid way. What does that mean? Or the boys are wearing sagging. You see that sagging in America, it's because they take the belt of a criminal when he's going into jail. So his trouser drops and it became fashion. It means you are a thug. All right? I just saw on the internet a young lady wore tattoo all over her body, her face, everywhere. And she showed up at TJ Maxx for a job in the US and they didn't give her. And somebody else intervened and said, you know what? You did it because you want to be different. In normal society, they won't hire you as the face of TJ Maxx. But our young ladies and young boys think you can tattoo your whole body and show up in Ministry of Education for minister to hire you. It's impossible. Because those things are not things that we hold dear as a society. So while you are looking at America and looking at the UK, you must remember that you give respect to whom respect is due. Respect what? Begets respect. That is so important. And I think you want to dress as you wish to be addressed. Today's young people do not understand the meaning of delayed gratification. Within the political circle, the youthful slogan is, for youth, now, now. What does that mean? You should give them the money now, now. Nobody wants to change your tire for you on the street. You are in trouble because that person thinks if you don't pay them, they won't help you with your tire. What happens to humanity and brotherhood and relationship? Cyril, I come from the background of a mixed background, and I know that you come from same. In the middle belt, we're like that. My grandfather was an Alhaji. I'm a die-in-the-wool Catholic. My father was a Catholic. My cousins are Muslims. At Salah, I get more rams than anybody else in Abuja. And at Christmas, they get a lot of cake. What would make me today go and stand on the main road and insult another religion? Why should a parent tell a child that that religion is very bad? What would make me insult my cousins who are Muslims? What would make my cousins insult me? They come to my house at Christmas to eat. Now, put that away. What about ethnicity? What are we teaching our children? Once the TV comes, you say, these people, just foolish people. Tomorrow that child will inhabit it. I have a course where we teach children in the last 18 or so years called the Treasured Writers. We teach them writing, kindness, and so on, a summer boot camp. And we have icebreakers. So when the children come, we switch. If you sit beside someone, we'll move you so that you can mix with another child. An 11-year-old, sat beside a 9-year-old after we had switched them. And this is what he said. I am not going to sit near her. I don't like her name. I don't like her religion. I don't like her tribe. I don't like her at all. 11. You think he picked it on the main road? He learned it from his parents. Biases. I speak 8 languages, 5 of which is Nigerian. And for me, every tribe has its heights, has its lows. You cannot just wake up in the morning and write in the media that one tribe is useless. You can't do that. Or tell your children. The media needs to watch it. Our children are looking at those papers and TV, and when you put your biases in those places, it doesn't help. I tell my staff when I used to be ED at NTA, when you go out, talk to both men and women. Don't come back and say you didn't see a woman. Are the women dead? Only the men are talking about issues, and it looks like women don't understand. I say, go out and find a woman. Then when you get to the women say, talk to Dr. Komolafe, I don't want to talk. Women must stand up and be counted so that our children can see that we're also experts. Chris Anyanwu was petroleum correspondent in NTA. Moni Adebayo was defense correspondent in NTA. Many young girls wanted to be those women. Me and Cyril read the news for the longest. Many people walk up to us and say, it's because of you that I read mass communication. Parenting is important. Mentoring is important. Teaching our children that no religion is better than the other is important. Teaching them to be kind to their fellow human being is important. And it is critical that the children themselves understand that the Bible says, honor your father and your mother so that your days will be long. Don't listen to internet that says you should abuse your father. It cuts life short. I'm done.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Dr. Linus Okorie, the mantle.
So I would like to share 2 stories in concluding my thoughts this afternoon. A couple of years ago, I had the honor to have been nominated by the American government in a program they call IVLP, which means since 1932, they choose some outstanding people around the world and bring them to America for 1 month to understand what makes America work from the leadership development perspective. And here I was in Washington, D.C. with 27 of my colleagues from all over the world. And America had brought 50 young people, the age between 17 and 18, 16, 17, and 18, from 50 states in America. And 2 of them were seated on my table. So they shared them amongst all the tables. And then a young man, 17 years old, his name is Aaron. And he asked me, Mr. Lionel Sokore, what do you do for a living? And he asked so respectfully, but very assertive. And I said to him that I'm raising leaders for Africa. The next thing he said just shocked me, culture shock. He said, Mr. Lionel Sokore, can I and my friends raise money for your work? So at 17, I went to Atlanta. He sent me an email. He said, I've discussed with my friends, and we're waiting for your feedback. I've even copied them the email. Immediately, I thought about a 17-year-old, basically mostly in Nigeria. In that sense, somebody could wash your car, and the next thing they might ask you is for a tip. So volunteerism is a concept that has grown in America because they've invested so much in those young people. America spends $180 billion for leadership development in their budgets yearly, cut across states, local governments, or counties, as the case may be. In another case, I walked into the classroom. If I was a Harvard class, was the act and practice of leadership. Experts from all over the world in leadership development, we had gathered to discuss the future of leadership. What will leadership development look like in the future? Right in that class, ladies and gentlemen, I started doing the statistics of who and who, where they're coming from. 11 came from Australia. In that particular class, some came from Canada, some came from India, some came from even Brazil, some came from Singapore. In the whole of Africa that has deficit of leadership capital to the greatest maximum you can imagine, only 2 came from Africa. 1 from Morocco, 1 from Nigeria. Yet, in the next school, which is a business school, in the Harvard community, almost every 10 persons in that class, you will find at least 3-4 Nigerians, and then some part of Africa. You can think a little bit that it then means that the pursuit for materialism, the pursuit for love of money, and all of these things, thinking about self-comfort, self-pursuit, is the most dangerous path to go if we must talk about civility. Do you know who I am concept is enough, to get into a competitive spirit where everybody is competing, not for impact, craze for money, craze for position, craze for all of that. And the young people are watching. If we want to change that tide, a great man said, we're blind until we know that nothing is worth the making. If it doesn't make the man, why builders this city is glorious? Why man unbuilded goes? We want to change this country and build a country where, or an Africa where civility, respect, order, intelligence, impact, the common good concept will thrive. We must begin to invest in the leadership capital of every young person, every child, from our families, from the school system. There has to be an investment in leadership and etiquette. That investment, teaching those young people how to respect humans, teaching those young people how to be the best they can be, teaching them how to serve one another, the ordinary courtesy of opening doors or have your way first. All those little things, if you don't teach them, nothing will come. We must create an outcome in our mind. Our vision must see a future that works. Abraham Lincoln said, I do not care about who my grandfather was. I only care about who his grandson is going to become. So let's assume that we have made mistakes in the past, each and every one of us. Why don't we start today that Etiquette Africa is now calling us to say, hey, wait a minute, can we reinvent? Can we change the way things are done in this country? To be very honest, therefore, my concluding thought will be that if Nigeria can put great investment in not just educating for technical certificates or for professional certificates, we must begin to put in our curriculum, like never before, sound leadership focus and etiquette focused education that has components that will help and inspire leaders to transform. Right. For 31 years of my life, I have been in this course and I have met all manner of humans. I've met people with 5 degrees with low leadership capital.
Okay.
I've met with all manner, and I can tell you the truth that the secret will not be in the papers. It will be in the new attitude, the new leadership capital, the new behavior patterns. And at the end of the day, we'll build a society that is loving one another, respecting one another. And at the end of the day, we'll have value for one another. And then this society will work because we all are coming together to make it work.
Right.
I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lionel Sokore. And bring to a conclusion, Anthony Iromosele.
All right. Thank you very much. On a final note, I would like to reiterate and just speak briefly on what the highly respectable media veteran that I believe Nigerians is lucky to have, and talking about Eugenia Abu, when she made mention of the family units in terms of instilling values and ethics on the child, because it's from making of these children they grow to adults and everything they've been taught with, understanding the value, the culture, the folk ways that their community is governed by, and their immediate family, that's rules and principle that has been set by the head of their family, talking about the parents. It's imbibing these key core values that when they grow up, they shun every vices that makes for incivility, like we see in our society, majorly that has been talked about, corruption. So even as she was talking, it coursed through my mind when I remembered a theory that was propagated by Badura when he talked about child behavior. And in his theory, he had an experiment where he brought in children of various race and background. He kept them in a play place. He left the children there. They were watching them through a screen. They were just chilling, playing on their own. However, he came behind them to drop hammers and teddy bears behind them. Then he played on a screen for them, not a cartoon, but adults hitting teddy bears with hammers. Then they put the screen off and made the children, remove the veil, made the children to see the teddy bear, rubbers, hammers, and everything on the floor. In less than 5 minutes, all the children started hitting the teddy bears with the rubber hammers. What is this trying to say? Just following what she said, that in our various homes, how we talk to children, how we talk to people around us, especially, sometimes it's not the words they listen to, it's how you act. The experiment just simply says, children, watch what you do over what you say. So what we are trying to say is that when it comes to the issues of ethics, issue of values in our society, it is very important, as a co-panelist that talk about leadership rightly mentioned, it is important that its leaders show exemplary leadership, not just by talking about ethics, values, or living right. You need to show this behavior so that when it is rightly seen, it will be easy for anybody that you are tutoring to live by that. In order not to waste any time, I will say it is important the convener continue to fight this cause, continue to raise the flag high with issues of ethics and value in Nigeria, because it is coming at the right time. We need to go back to our basis. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anthony Iromosele, who's standing in for the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. Well, this brings to a conclusion the first set of discussions, and as just we wrap up the discussions, the panelists have all drawn attention to what I think we should take very seriously. And if I might just cap it up by saying, isn't it amazing that in this day and age, we still have parents who write exams for their children? They do. And then we talk about imbibing ethics and values. So that I would leave you with, as I ask you once more to appreciate the panelists, Dr. James Komolafe, Mrs. Eugenia Abu, Dr. Linus Okorie, and Anthony Erumosele, who stood in for the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Madam Lanre Isaunilu. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please, all our panelists, please just stay on as I invite the delectable Lady Eti, our convener. She's got plaques for all of you. While we try to get ready with the plaques, it's my delight to recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Honorable Uju Kennedy Ohaneye. You're welcome, ma'am. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our dear students, looking at the composition of this panel, what I could see, Dr. Ezekwesili, I could see mentorship. When I listened to Dr. Komolafe, I heard behavioral mentoring. Mrs. Eugenia Abu had led us through parenting. Dr. Linus, of course, leadership. And from the National Orientation Agency, orientation and reorientation. But I'll talk parenting because I'm a product of good parenting. And by the way, please, let's celebrate Mrs. Frina Akpanusong in the house, the mother of our convener. It takes a great mother to raise a great daughter who have recognized a niche in society that has to be fixed. And she is smashing and doing justice to it. Please, another round of applause. Please, can I have the ushers here, please? Please, very quickly, please, very quickly. No, just here. Forward one of this. We should come. Well, the minister has already said what she has said. Please clap as we have the Honorable Minister for Women Affairs.
Thank you, everyone. I can't sit down waiting for protocol when I got something to do and I need to talk to my brothers, my sisters, my children, as I can see them over there. It's all about them. But I listened to the panel. Anyway, Your Excellencies, your executive members, Nigerians, children, everyone present, the media, welcome. I appreciate everyone and I plead to stand on the existing protocol. And my children here, I appreciate you people the most. Welcome, right? Can you hear me? Welcome. I listened to the panel and I'm one person who believes that a child first becomes your child, before that person becomes your friend. When you start making your children your friend at the early stage, I wonder how you'll be able, that means you spare the rod and spoil the child. Then at the same time, when a child turns out bad, 80% of fault lies on the parents. Because what we call juvenile delinquency, like we all know, is like an insanity if you don't know. So many children within that age, they don't know what they are doing. They don't understand it. The parents are the ones who will stand their feet firmly on ground and lead them well. Whatever it takes, you keep pushing until that child comes back to sanity, which most times they get to like 21 before they start realizing. But those their parents, they didn't do a good job. By the time they're 21, it's full of regrets. And I have one thing to tell parents. When you end up bringing up a bad child, you suffer it the most. She gets married, she's taken back home, back to you because of etiquette. The boy goes anywhere, he fights with his wife, he comes back home, he keeps tormenting you until that parent dies of either heartache or anything. And you say, what do I care? You're a grown-up. You pursue the person. As the person is out there disgracing you, a madman, the person that gets ashamed of what a madman does, are the family members, not the madman. So let parents first talk to ourselves before we talk to the children. Because you sit down, you allow your child walk into your fridge without consent, take something, eat without caring, it has branches of disorderliness and bad behavior. By the time that child grows, he doesn't think he needs your attention or your consent to do anything. And when a child starts doing some things without the consent of their parents, that is the beginning of bad behavior. Then if you find out any kind of movement on your child, of which you're supposed to be watching them all the time. I hug my children over 50 times a day. I started it from when they were babies. It's for a reason. So when they started anything like smoking, I'll be able to know. But they never knew that till date. Each time they come, they're used to it. Hello, mom. They kiss me here, they kiss me there. And I will hug them tightly. And I'll perceive. Immediately I see anything I don't understand, or if I perceive anything, some of them, when immediately they turn like 14 years, I started running drug tests on them. It's a psychological thing. I do it 2-3 times in a week. It costs me 15,000 each person. And I was doing it 3 times a week because if you take any drug, it lasts 2-3 days, it clears from your system. So that subconsciousness made them not to get involved because they know mom will always find out. And when I'm going, I go along with their father. And again, most mothers, when your husband is scolding a child, you want to buy your child's favor by saying, why are you doing this to this child? Why are you wicked? I get a lot of cases like that in Ministry of Women Affairs, where a woman will write to me, my husband wants to leave me, or my husband is doing this, doing that. Imagine the way he did this to a child, and he was beating the child, and I was like, why should you be beating a child like that? And I called the woman, I said, you spoiled your home. Don't think because you're a woman, I will support you to do things that will have a reversal effect on your child. That child belongs to both of you. Even if my husband is wrong while scolding my child, and maybe the child didn't do it, I will join him. You see, both of us will deal with you today. Why should you even do that in the first place? Who are you? You know, I will join him. After I go call another man, make you come. This one where you do no work. This child didn't do it, this, that. But my child will not know I did that. And my husband will now find a way to make amends. Or even call the child and say, sorry, I misunderstood you. Because respect is reciprocal. But most times, the mothers will want their children to think, or the other way around, that your child should love you more than the other party. You people are not competing over your children. You are there to bring your children well. Help them grow up and become good. Because a spoiled child suffers a lot. And you don't expect that child to suffer alone and let you live your life happily. So, both parties have a role to play when it comes to issue of bringing up a child. No matter the amount of money, it's not issue of taking them to the most expensive schools. My children did not go to the most expensive schools. I rather reserve the money. I bought shares for them with that extra funds. And today, they're using the shares to do their trading, and they're doing well. So it's not about that. It's about the moral you impart on your children. It's about showing them that you stand together with your husband. It is we against them. You and your husband against your children. That is the best way to me. I may not be right, but this is the style I use, and I have 4 kids. None is giving me any stress. They're all lawyers and in the making, and I have no stress from them. I can use my hand and eye and talk to them. And when I tell them enter the car, they enter the car no matter your age. It's because of they know. Leave those crazy people who I've overheard my children while they were talking to you know the way they behave. Just keep quiet though. You know, they were talking to themselves. So it's because I stood firmly with my husband against them. So I thank everyone that came here today, and I want to give a special announcement that I was just coming from FCT High Court to meet the Chief Judge and other 6 judges, and lo and behold, mobile court has been confirmed for me, for women and children today. So my children, you know they have a jail for children, juvenile jail. I'm still telling you, no matter how they bring you up, help yourself and bring yourself up. Because you commit any immoral crime, my mobile court will come after you. Trust me. And you're heading there. I will be bringing you food while you're there until you have some correctional things happening to your life. And I'll still come back and then plead for you to come out. And I keep watching you. So you bring up yourself. Don't depend solemnly on your parents alone. You probably help yourself to be a better person, build yourself up for the society and a better Nigeria. So let's please clap for the Chief Judge of FCT and the other chief judges that are coming up with this mobile court, because no matter how hard I want to work, no matter how prudent and active I am, without consequences for a crime, I cannot stop the crime, because it will be like a broken record. You keep shouting. But when somebody feels nothing mega, nothing will happen, the person will keep on doing that same thing, even at home, even everywhere. So the mobile court is the consequences that I have above every other thing if any crime is being committed. Thank you, everyone, and remain blessed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma, when you mentioned that you would visit them in prison, please, I know the Honorable Minister skipped that part. She would also reward your good works and hard work. Please, a round of applause for the Honorable Minister. Very quickly, please, let's clap as we receive Aziba for a spoken word rendition. Please clap.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm so happy. It's such a pleasure standing here in your midst this afternoon. You'll permit me to stand on already existing protocols. So I've been here for at least an hour. And so when I was called upon to do this rendition on etiquette, you know, I've been in the panel, in the auditorium, and I've heard the theme of leadership resonate so strongly with me, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So I know that leadership is about becoming, and in most ways, this poem is about, you know, becoming as well. I hope you can connect with it. Over 10,000 years, our brains have shrunk. The smaller the size, the more efficient. Mainframe computers were not micro enough, so we made cell phones out of silicon chips. It's easy to mistake smaller for efficient. We cut down forests to make pencils, burn down bridges, only to realize too late that the rubble was never designed for crossing. When I think of smaller, I think of the countless times I have shrunk to fit into pocket editions of myself. Carving miniatures who look like me, figurines who break at the earth's touch and break even further until the debris is the only version I recognize. Courage sits in my pocket, Riding on a pair of bipedal legs, I scroll through my Instagram feed, buried underneath unlived affirmations. How can I face eyes whose stares leap higher than vertigo's legs? Their gapes level mountains, prone on their bellies, I shrink to shield myself from the what-ifs. What if dinosaurs did not roar, but there were vocalists dying to be heard? What if caves are shaped like ovaries because life exists even in the darkness? I heard black holes are not really black. I heard corpse flowers bloom as they rot. I heard Saturn can float on water despite being the second largest planet, so why did we have to shrink to discover ourselves? I asked the sun how she breathes without oxygen, how a dead dinosaur plant comes to life at the taste of water, how new stars are formed, how new gods are born. The sun tells me it hurts to become. Serendipity is a drug I get high on to numb the pain. She tells me we can be empty yet full, ruptured yet whole, a plane wreck at the fringe of an uncut mountain. This pain is a valley, and we have sunk so low that we are level-headed. Finally, I understand why the sun burns so bright. We are not made of silicon chips. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my secondary school literature teacher used to say, I wish Wordsworth was still alive to teach me poetry. Sadly, he is not alive himself anymore. I would have told him, sir, I have found Aziba. She would teach me poetry. Please, another round of applause for that very beautiful rendition. Very quickly, we move to the next segment, our second panel session, and this session will be moderated by Ebaide. She is a lawyer, an advocate with interest in economic sustainability, climate change. She would be leading this segment. Please, a round of applause as she comes forward.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, Winston Churchill said something when he was arraigned and was asked to make some certain definitions to what he had said in the previous conversation. And he said something in his closing remarks. He said, it takes so much courage to come up and speak to people, but yet it takes even a greater courage to sit down and listen. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for yourselves. You've all been here since the morning, learning, unlearning, and relearning, and you've gone through the first panel session, we're here at the second panel session, and you're still here, just waiting to learn more. This is a huge feat, and I congratulate you all as Nigerians who are very definite on what you want to learn and what you want to take home. It's really important that you stay through and you get the best of it. Thank you so much. For the second panel session, we have a couple of speakers, very amiable speakers, who have traversed, the length and breadth of their expertise, and they're willing to share this expertise with us in line of the theme of this conference, which is actually the impact of incivility on Africa's development. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome the first panelist for this second session is no other person but Madam Christy Adejo. Please.
Christy Eleojo Adejo, FNIM. She's a management consultant, certified trainer, and coach with a distinct strength in human asset capacity development, leadership development, ethics, etiquette, and public speaking. A holder of the Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science and Master of Arts degree in International Law and Diplomacy. She has had an eclectic work life spanning university lecturing, mortgage banking, logistics, human resource management, training and development, a highly insightful professional. She has sat on the board of directors of various companies, including a bank, an oil service company, a building construction company, and a score of social development initiatives. She has attended a number of leadership and management development